The vast emptiness of space held many secrets, but none as surprising as the small blue planet that orbited an average yellow star in the outer rim of the Milky Way. For centuries, the Galactic Federation had mapped, studied, and classified millions of worlds across thousands of star systems. Their mission was simple: find life, understand it, and decide whether it posed any threat to the established order of the cosmos. Captain Marcus leaned forward in his command chair, his eyes fixed on the main screen of the research vessel Seeker. The blue-green planet called Earth loomed large in their viewfinder. What made this world special wasn't its size, location, or resources. It was what lived there. "Run the scan again," he ordered, his voice calm but firm. "I want to be absolutely sure before we report back to headquarters." Officer Bell nodded and tapped at her console. "Scan complete, sir. Results unchanged. 7 distinct apex predator species with advanced cognitive abilities, just as we found yesterday, and the day before that." Marcus rubbed his chin thoughtfully. In his 30 years of service to the Federation, he had never encountered anything like this. The standard evolutionary pattern across the galaxy was clear and consistent. Planets produced at most 1 or 2 intelligent species, usually herbivores or omnivores. Predators rarely developed higher thinking. They simply didn't need to. Yet here, on this unremarkable planet, nature had broken all the rules. "The Council won't believe this," he muttered. 7 intelligent predator species on one world. It defies everything we know about evolution. Dr. Carter, the ship's chief xenobiologist, approached with a tablet in hand. Her eyes gleamed with excitement behind her glasses. "Captain, I've analyzed the data. Earth isn't just unusual. It's unique in our records. No other planet we've studied has produced multiple predator species with this level of intelligence. The closest example had 2, and they destroyed each other within a few hundred years of developing technology." "So what makes Earth different?" Marcus asked. "That's the fascinating part," Carter replied, showing him charts and images on her tablet. "Earth has experienced extreme climate shifts, multiple mass extinctions, and dramatic geological changes throughout its history. These creatures have been forced to adapt constantly, creating evolutionary pressure unlike anything we've seen elsewhere." Officer Bell looked up from her station. "Sir, the Council is requesting our preliminary report." Marcus stood and straightened his uniform. "Tell them we need more time. This discovery requires careful study before we make any recommendations." But the Council was not known for patience. Hours later, a priority message arrived from Federation headquarters. The message was clear. Earth represented a potential threat, unlike any the galaxy had faced before. The Council was sending Dr. Taylor, their most experienced xenobiologist, to oversee further research. When Dr. Taylor arrived 1 week later, his first action was to call an all-hands meeting in the Seekers conference room. "The implications of your discovery cannot be overstated," he told the crew, his voice grave. 1 intelligent predator species can reshape a planet. 2 can spark wars that destroy civilizations. But 7 could potentially destabilize the entire galactic balance if they ever develop interstellar travel. He brought up holographic images of Earth's deadly 7. Humans with their tools and adaptability, dolphins with their complex language, ravens with their problem-solving skills, octopi with their camouflage and dexterity, wolves with their pack tactics, bears with their raw power and learning capacity, and orcas with their strategic hunting methods. "Our mission is now the highest priority in the Federation," Dr. Taylor continued. "We must understand how these species evolved, how they interact, and most importantly, how they have managed to coexist without destroying each other. The safety of every world in our galaxy may depend on what we learn here." As the meeting ended, Captain Marcus gazed at the blue planet on the view screen. What secrets did Earth hold? And what would happen when its predators looked to the stars? Dr. Taylor stood before the large viewing screen in the research vessel's main laboratory. Around him, the top scientists of the Federation expedition team watched with mixed expressions of awe and concern as footage of Earth's 7 intelligent predator species played in sequence. The more we study them, the more extraordinary they become, Dr. Taylor said, tapping his control pad to pause on an image of humans building a structure. Let's review what makes each of these species so remarkable and potentially dangerous. The screen changed to show humans running across a grassy plain under a hot sun. Despite the heat, they kept moving long after other animals had sought shelter. Humans, Dr. Taylor began. They appear physically weak compared to other predators. No claws, no fangs, limited strength, but they possess two qualities that make them terrifying: endless endurance and tool use. Humans can literally chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion, a hunting method called persistence hunting. And their hands. He zoomed in on human fingers crafting a spear. These allowed them to create tools that extend their reach far beyond their natural abilities. Officer Reed raised her hand. But surely other species use tools. Yes, but not to this extent, Dr. Taylor replied, switching to the next image. Consider ravens. The screen showed black birds dropping nuts onto roads, waiting for cars to crack them open, then retrieving the food when safe. Ravens solve complex problems, remember faces for years, use tools, and even hold what appear to be funerals for their dead. They pass knowledge down through generations. Their brains, for their body size, are remarkably large. Captain Marcus leaned forward. I've read they can mimic human speech. Indeed, and they're just one of Earth's intelligent flyers. Dr. Taylor moved to the next image. Sleek gray bodies cutting through ocean waves. Dolphins have brain-to-body ratios second only to humans. They use signature whistles, essentially names, and have regional dialects. They form complex social alliances and can recognize themselves in mirrors, showing self-awareness. The scientist tapped again, and the screen filled with tentacles changing color and texture. Octopi. 8 limbs, each with its own nerve cluster, essentially 9 brains working together. They can solve puzzles, recognize individual humans, and escape through openings barely the size of their eyes. Their camouflage abilities are unmatched in any species we've found across the galaxy. Dr. Carter whispered to her colleague, "No wonder the Council is worried." Dr. Taylor continued, showing footage of a wolf pack surrounding a much larger animal. Wolves. Their strength isn't individual but collective. They communicate through complex body language, facial expressions, and vocalizations. They coordinate hunts with strategies that suggest planning and role assignment. The screen changed to show a massive brown bear standing on its hind legs, towering over the landscape. Bears demonstrate tool use, problem-solving, and remarkable memory. They can remember food locations years after discovering them and adapt their diets to whatever's available. Their learning curve is steep. Some have figured out how to open car doors and food containers after seeing it done just once. Finally, the screen displayed black and white orcas working together to create waves that washed seals off ice floes. And orcas, killer whales, perhaps the most strategic hunters in Earth's oceans. Different groups have developed distinct hunting techniques and even their own cultures that they teach to their young. They're among the few species that have been documented teaching others. Dr. Taylor turned off the display and faced the room. 7 apex predators, each formidable alone. But what truly sets Earth apart is this: these species have evolved alongside each other. They've been shaped by the same planetary forces, the ice ages, the meteor impacts, the shifting continents. Earth isn't just a planet. It's an evolutionary pressure cooker unlike anything we've seen elsewhere. Captain Marcus stood up, his face serious. And if they reach the stars, what happens when 7 deadly species begin to spread through the galaxy together? Dr. Taylor's answer was simple but chilling. The galaxy would never be the same again. Commander Reed had never planned to be the first Federation officer to make direct contact with Earth species. His mission was simple: maintain orbit, observe, and report back. No interaction, no interference. Those were the rules. But rules rarely survive contact with reality. Engine failure in sectors 3 and 4, his ship's computer announced in its calm voice. Atmospheric entry imminent. Emergency protocols engage. Reed gripped his control panel as the small scout ship shuddered. Through the viewport, Earth's white polar region grew larger by the second. The ship's hull glowed red-hot as it punched through the atmosphere. "Computer, send emergency beacon to the Seeker," Reed ordered, fighting to keep calm. Unable to comply. Communications damaged during power surge. Reed closed his eyes briefly. No one would know where he had crashed. No one would come looking. At least not soon enough. The impact came harder than expected. Snow and ice exploded around the craft as it carved a half-mile trench across the frozen landscape before coming to rest. The silence afterward was broken only by the hiss of melting snow against hot metal. Reed checked himself for injuries. A cut on his forehead, bruised ribs, but nothing broken. He reached for the emergency survival pack and prepared to exit the damaged vessel. According to his briefing, Earth's Arctic was one of the planet's least populated regions, a small blessing. The cold hit him like a physical blow when he opened the hatch. Even his thermal suit struggled against temperatures far below freezing. Reed trudged through knee-deep snow, looking for any shelter as wind whipped ice crystals against his face. In the distance, he spotted something moving. Large, white four-legged. "Great," he muttered. "Wildlife." The creature approached cautiously, its black nose testing the air. Reed remembered his briefing. Polar bears, one of Earth's apex predators. Massive, powerful, and smart enough to see him as an easy meal. Reed reached for his stunner, but before he could aim it, a sharp sound cut through the howling wind. The bear turned and moved away, responding to some signal Reed couldn't hear. "Don't move," a voice called out. Human, Reed realized with a jolt. "Stay exactly where you are." 4 figures approached through the snowstorm, wrapped in thick furs and wearing protective goggles. They moved with purpose, spreading out to surround him. At their side trotted another animal. Gray, wolf-like, alert. "I mean no harm," Reed said, raising his hand slowly. The humans stopped, clearly shocked to hear him speak their language. One stepped forward, lowering a protective face mask. "You're not from any research station I know," the human said. "And that's certainly not any aircraft I've ever seen." He gestured toward the smoking wreckage. "My name is Reed." He hesitated, realizing he had no cover story prepared. First contact wasn't supposed to happen like this. The wolf-like animal approached, sniffing the air around Reed curiously instead of showing aggression. "Gray seems to think you're okay," the human said, watching the wolf's reaction. "I'm Dr. Williams. This is my research team. We're studying climate patterns at our station about 2 miles from here." He paused, staring at Reed's unusual clothing and equipment. "Though I suspect you're not here for the climate, are you?" Reed made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "No," he admitted. "I'm here to study something much more interesting." "And what might that be?" Dr. Williams asked. "You," Reed replied simply. "All of you." The group began their trek to the research station, Reed walking between 2 humans while the wolf named Gray trotted alongside, as if assigned to watch him. Through the blowing snow, Reed noticed something else moving in the water beside their path. Sleek, dark shapes keeping pace with them. "Orcs," Dr. Williams explained, following Reed's gaze. "They've been curious about our station since we set up. We're tracking their migration patterns. Smart creatures. Sometimes I swear they're studying us as much as we're studying them." Reed felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Arctic cold. In just his first hour on Earth, he had already encountered 3 of its deadly 7 species, and they were working together. As the research station came into view, Reed spotted a large black bird perched on the roof, watching their approach with intelligent eyes. 4 species, working together. The Federation Council would never believe it. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Federation fell silent as Admiral Jones stepped onto the speaking platform. Behind him, a massive holographic projection showed Earth rotating slowly, 7 red markers highlighting different regions of the planet. "Distinguished Council members," the Admiral began, his voice echoing through the vast space. "2 standard cycles ago, we lost contact with Commander Reed's scout ship in Earth's polar region. Yesterday, we received his full report." He paused, letting the tension build. Reed not only survived, but made direct contact with Earth inhabitants. Murmurs spread through the chamber like ripples in a pond. First contact was strictly forbidden without Council approval. High Counselor Marsh leaned forward. "What happened to our non-interference protocols, Admiral?" Reed had no choice after his ship crashed. But his experience has provided us with critical information we could not have gathered through distant observation alone. The Admiral tapped a control, and the hologram changed to show footage from Reed's recorded observations. The Council watched in stunned silence as images played of the Arctic Research Station. Humans worked alongside wolves that acted more like partners than pets. Ravens delivered small objects between different buildings. In specially designed tanks, dolphins communicated with humans through a basic symbol system, helping to interpret sonar data from the surrounding waters. Reed spent 14 Earth days at this facility before our extraction team could reach him. The Admiral continued. "What he witnessed confirms our worst fears. These species aren't just separately intelligent. They are forming symbiotic relationships." Dr. Taylor joined the Admiral on the platform. "The humans at this research station represent just a small sample, but they show a growing pattern. Earth's predator species are learning to collaborate across species lines. They're combining their unique strengths." The hologram shifted to show other locations. An octopus in a laboratory manipulating objects that humans couldn't reach in tight spaces. Bears trained to assist with search and rescue operations in mountain regions. Orcs guiding fishing vessels to productive areas in exchange for a share of the catch. "But surely this is just primitive cooperation," argued Counselor Pike. "These Earth species are nowhere near space travel. Their technology is basic by our standards." Admiral Jones shook his head. "Their individual technologies may be primitive, but their rate of advancement is not." He displayed a chart showing Earth's technological progression over the past century. The line climbed at an increasingly steep angle. No other world in our records has shown this acceleration curve. And more concerning, he highlighted a section of the data. It is that the curve steepened dramatically after humans began these cross-species collaborations. High Counselor Marsh stood, silencing the growing debate with a raised hand. "What exactly are you suggesting, Admiral?" "Our simulations indicate that at their current rate of progress, humans will achieve limited interstellar travel within 50 years. And when they do, they won't come alone. They'll bring their fellow predators with them." Dr. Taylor stepped forward. "The threat isn't just their intelligence or their predatory nature, it's their adaptability. Humans have already established colonies in nearly every environment on their planet, from deserts to tundra. With their companion species, they could potentially adapt to almost any world they encounter. And if they reach worlds already inhabited by Federation species?" asked Counselor Pike. "Based on Earth's history," the Admiral replied grimly, "they will either dominate those species or incorporate them into their growing alliance of predators. Either outcome disrupts the galactic balance we've maintained for millennia." The chamber erupted in voices, some calling for immediate intervention, others advocating for continued observation. High Counselor Marsh struck her resonance rod against the floor 3 times, bringing order. "We have heard enough," she announced. "The Council will now vote on containment measures. If Earth species cannot yet leave their planet, perhaps it would be wise to ensure they never do." The voting lights around the chamber began to glow, predominantly green. Approval for the proposed quarantine of Earth. Admiral Jones watched with a mixture of relief and unease. The Federation had never before attempted to isolate an entire world. But they had never before encountered 7 apex predators working together either. What concerned him most was a question no one had asked. What would Earth's predators do when they discovered they were being caged? Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship, Guardian, watching as his fleet took position around Earth's solar system. 20 ships, each capable of destroying a small moon, spread out to form an invisible barrier. Their mission was clear. No Earth vessel would be permitted to travel beyond Mars. "Stealth systems engaged, Admiral," reported Commander Banks from the tactical station. "We're completely invisible to Earth's current detection technology." Wilson nodded, his face stern. "Deploy the sensor network. I want to know the moment anything larger than a shuttle tries to leave their atmosphere." The bridge crew worked efficiently, setting up the most comprehensive blockade in Federation history. Wilson had commanded containment operations before, but never one of this scale or importance. Usually, dangerous species were confined to a single continent or island, not an entire planet. "Sir," Banks said, "the Council is requesting an update on Operation Quarantine." "Tell them Phase 1 is complete," Wilson replied. "We're in position and undetected. Earth remains oblivious to our presence." But 12 million miles away, in a remote mountain observatory on Earth, Professor Thomas adjusted the settings on a device that wasn't supposed to exist yet. "There it is again," Thomas said, pointing to a faint pattern on the screen. "Same energy signature we detected last week. Something's out there, and it's not natural." The small team of scientists gathered around the monitor, faces illuminated by its blue glow. They had been tracking unusual readings for nearly a month, slight gravitational anomalies, brief energy spikes, and radiation patterns that defied explanation. "Could it be some kind of military satellite?" asked Dr. Lewis, the team's physicist. Thomas shook his head. "No government on Earth has technology that could create these readings. Whatever we're detecting is far beyond our current capabilities." He tapped a few keys, bringing up a 3-dimensional map of their solar system, with small red dots marking each anomaly they had detected. "Look at the pattern," Thomas said. "These objects aren't random. They're positioned strategically around our solar system's exit vectors, the most efficient paths a ship would take to leave our solar neighborhood." Dr. Rivera, the youngest member of the team, voiced what they were all thinking. "It's a blockade, isn't it? Something is containing us." Thomas nodded slowly. "That's my theory. The question is, why? And more importantly, what do we do about it?" For 3 months, Thomas and his team worked in secret, modifying their observatory equipment to better track the alien presence. They reached out to trusted colleagues at other facilities around the world, creating a covert network of observers. What began as a small research project evolved into something much larger. Earth's first planetary defense initiative, hidden from public knowledge to prevent panic. In his private office, Thomas secured the communication line before making his weekly call to General Parker. "We've confirmed 20 ships, General," Thomas reported. "Their technology is like nothing we've ever seen. They generate energy signatures that suggest they could cross the distance between stars." On the screen, General Parker's expression remained impassive, but his eyes betrayed his concern. "And you're certain they haven't detected your monitoring?" "As certain as we can be. We're using passive systems only, nothing that broadcasts our awareness of them." The general leaned closer to the camera. "What about the project we discussed? Any progress?" Thomas smiled for the first time in days. "Significant progress. Dr. Rivera has adapted the stealth technology we developed for deep space probes. It masks energy signatures by mimicking cosmic background radiation. In theory, a small object could slip past the blockade undetected." "In theory," the general repeated. "That's not good enough. Professor, we need certainty." "Science doesn't deal in certainties, General, but we're ready for a test run. We've prepared a probe carrying bacterial samples, nothing that could be considered dangerous, but enough to test whether biological material from Earth can pass through their blockade. And if it works, Thomas's expression grew serious. Then we moved to Phase 2. If someone's trying to keep us caged on our planet, we need to understand why. And we need options. Above Earth, Admiral Wilson watched the peaceful blue planet, unaware that the supposedly primitive species below had already detected his fleet and were preparing their response. 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years until we can release the blockade and go home. Commander Banks looked up from her console. Sir, the Council expects Earth's quarantine to last 3 years. After that, they believe the inhabitants will have forgotten any anomalies they might have noticed, and we can withdraw. And you, sir, do you think 3 years will be sufficient? Wilson stared at Earth, remembering the reports of 7 intelligent predator species working together, adapting, evolving. No, Commander, he said finally. I don't think it will be nearly enough. The small cylindrical probe launched from Earth without fanfare. No rockets, no flames, no thunderous countdown. Just a silent electromagnetic pulse that pushed it beyond the atmosphere. Its exterior, coated with a material that absorbed rather than reflected radiation, appeared to sensors as nothing more than a passing asteroid. In Professor Thomas's underground control room, the team held their breath as they tracked the probe's path toward the edge of the solar system. Passing Mars orbit now, reported Dr. Rivera, her eyes fixed on the tracking screen. No sign of intercept or detection. Thomas nodded, his face tense. What about the blockade ships? Still in position. They haven't changed course or power signatures, replied Lewis, monitoring a separate display. I think they don't see it. For 6 days, they tracked the probe's progress, expecting at any moment to see it destroyed or captured. But nothing happened. The small vessel slipped through the Federation's elaborate security net like a minnow through a fishing trawl. We did it, Thomas whispered on the 7th day. As the probe officially passed beyond the last blockade ship, we actually did it. What Thomas and his team didn't know was that their success was about to be overshadowed by something much bigger. 500 million miles away, on the red surface of Mars, Director Jordan removed his helmet inside the pressurized dome of Colony Alpha. The first permanent human settlement on Mars had been established in secret 3 years ago, shortly after Earth's governments had detected the alien blockade. Status report, Jordan asked, approaching the central command table where his leadership team had gathered. The supply ship made it through, said Operations Chief Foster. They used the stealth technology from Thomas's team. The Federation ships didn't react. Jordan allowed himself a small smile. And the cargo. Dr. Miller, head of the Biological Sciences Division, stepped forward. All samples intact. The genetic material from all 7 species arrived undamaged. The habitats are ready. For 2 years, Colony Alpha had been preparing for this moment, while the colony appeared to be a simple mining operation from orbit, just another step in humanity's slow expansion to Mars. Its true purpose was far more ambitious. Deep beneath the colony's visible structures, an elaborate network of tunnels connected vast underground chambers. Inside these chambers, the colonists had created miniature ecosystems, replicas of Earth environments. Lakes, forests, and even a small ocean habitat had been constructed using Martian ice and materials brought from Earth. Begin the integration process, Jordan ordered. I want all 7 habitats activated within 48 hours. The team dispersed to their stations, and Jordan made his way to the main observation deck, overlooking what they called the sanctuary, the largest of the underground chambers. Through the reinforced glass, he could see technicians preparing the dolphin habitat, filling the artificial sea with water processed from Martian ice. Nearby, the forest habitat for wolves and ravens was already teeming with earth plants, their green a stark contrast to the red planet above. "You're not supposed to be here," came a voice from behind him. Jordan turned to find Admiral Wilson, the Federation fleet commander, standing in the doorway, flanked by 2 armed officers. "Neither are you," Jordan replied calmly. "Yet here we both are." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. How long have you known about us? 3 years, 4 months, and 16 days. About as long as you've been watching us, I imagine. Jordan gestured toward the habitat below. Though clearly you haven't been watching closely enough. Wilson stepped forward, looking through the glass at the underground ecosystem. His expression shifted from anger to disbelief as he saw the scope of what the humans had created. "This is impossible," he said. "Your species doesn't have the technology to build this or to bypass our blockade." "Yet here we are," Jordan repeated. "Mars is officially our second planet now. And these habitats, they're just the beginning." Wilson's hand moved toward his weapon. The Federation ordered Earth's containment for the safety of the galaxy. 7 predator species under one banner is too dangerous to allow. Jordan didn't flinch. "Then you have a choice to make, Admiral. You can try to destroy us, which would be difficult now that we're established on 2 planets, or you can talk to us." "Talk? About what?" "About why we're really here." Jordan turned back to the observation window. "Come with me. There's something you need to see." Admiral Wilson followed Director Jordan through the underground tunnels of Colony Alpha, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Each turn revealed new wonders: humans and dolphins working side by side in a massive water filtration system, ravens carrying small packages between research stations, octopi manipulating delicate equipment in pressurized water tanks. "This is unexpected," Wilson admitted as they passed a security checkpoint where a wolf patrolled alongside a human guard. "That's Max," Jordan said, nodding toward the wolf. "He can detect changes in air composition that our instruments sometimes miss. He's saved lives 3 times during minor pressure leaks." They stopped at a large viewing window overlooking what appeared to be a small lake where orcas swam in patterns that seemed deliberate rather than random. "They're mapping the underwater cave systems," Jordan explained. "Their echolocation is more precise than our sonar technology." Wilson watched in silence before asking the question that had been troubling him since he discovered the colony. "Why? Why bring all these species to Mars? You must know how dangerous this looks to the rest of the galaxy." Jordan led him to a small conference room where maps and data screens covered the walls. "Because Earth taught us something important, Admiral. Something your Federation seems to have missed." He tapped a screen, bringing up images of Earth through different geological periods. "Our planet has faced 5 major extinction events. After each one, life adapted and evolved. The 7 intelligent species you fear didn't evolve in isolation. They evolved in response to each other and to a constantly changing world." Wilson frowned. "That doesn't explain this colony." "Earth is one ecosystem," Jordan continued. "When we realized we weren't alone in the universe, that someone was watching us and had decided to contain us, we understood we needed to preserve that ecosystem. Not just humans, but all of Earth's intelligent life." He brought up another screen showing habitat designs that extended far beyond Colony Alpha. "This is just the beginning. We're testing whether Earth's web of life can adapt to Mars. So far, the results are promising." "The Federation will never allow this expansion to continue," Wilson stated, but his voice lacked conviction. "Then the Federation doesn't understand what they're dealing with." Jordan's voice remained calm but firm. "We're not 7 separate species to fear. We're one ecological unit. Earth shaped us all, taught us to adapt and collaborate despite our predatory origins." He led Wilson to a final viewing area where a small forest habitat housed bears that appeared to be assisting with soil testing. "Look at them, Admiral. On Earth, bears and humans were enemies for thousands of years. Now they work with us. That's not just training. It's evolution. It's understanding that cooperation offers more benefits than competition." Wilson watched the scene below, his perspective shifting. In all his years enforcing Federation policy, he had never encountered anything like this. The Council had feared 7 apex predators spreading chaos through the galaxy. Instead, he was witnessing something entirely different: a complex, integrated system where each species complemented the others. "What are you proposing?" Wilson asked finally. A new classification, Jordan replied. Not 7 separate species, but one. Terrans, Earthborn, shaped by the same evolutionary forces, adapted to work together. He extended his hand. The quarantine ends, and in return, we agree to travel among the stars as a single unit, with shared responsibility for our actions. Wilson stared at the offered hand. Federation protocols required him to report back before making any agreements, but what he had seen changed everything the Federation thought it knew about Earth. The Council will need convincing, he said. Jordan smiled. Then invite them here. Let them see what we've built. Let them understand that Earth's greatest achievement isn't technology or individual intelligence. It's learning how former predators can become partners. 3 months later, the Federation Council convened its most unusual session. For the first time in its history, representatives from a non-member world were invited to speak. Jordan and delegates from Earth, human and non-human alike, presented their case. The debate lasted days, but the outcome was never really in doubt after the Council members toured Colony Alpha. Earth would join the galactic community under a new designation, Terran Collective, the first multi-species civilization in known space. As the formal agreement was signed, Admiral Wilson stood beside Director Jordan, watching dolphins, ravens, humans, wolves, octopi, bears, and orcas interacting in the colony's central plaza. You know, Wilson said quietly, the Federation feared Earth because it produced 7 deadly species. We never considered that it might also have produced the solution to ancient rivalries. Jordan nodded. That's the gift Earth gave us. Not just life, but lessons in how life thrives, through adaptation, cooperation, and understanding that strength comes in many forms. The stars will never be the same, Wilson remarked. No, Jordan agreed. They'll be better.